All right, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 15 of the PTFootypodcast. Before I introduce my guest, I'm going to say that, or leave out a special mention to Kyle that will not be with us any longer, at least for the meantime. He will come in as a guest every now and then. He was the one that also had the idea to start this thing up, so we're sad to see him leave, but he'll still come on eventually from time to time. Do not worry about that. Now, obviously, I'm your host, and we got Kevin here,
Hey everybody, how you doing?
and a debutant on the podcast, Brian.
What's up, everybody?
All right, so no pressure, huh? All right. So I'm gonna start off with Sporting, just because I wanna just quickly go out and say that they won 3-0 against Moreirense. Gelson, Bastos, and Joe Campbell scored. Uh, just interesting things to point out. Jorge started Skewoto and Duntas on the wings, while most of the times it would have been Marvin and João Pereira, so possibly saving up for the big match that they got coming up tomorrow against Real Madrid. First goal, it was a handball. Sorry to point that out, but it was a handball. And then they dominated the second half, but it scored a lot more goals. But 3-0 was the final score. Alex couldn't be with us today, so that's why I'm talking about Sporting. And we tried to get Chris on, Chris Moreira, but he ended up not replying to the DMs, so we couldn't have him as well. So that leaves things for Sporting. Don't forget that they play tomorrow against Real Madrid, 2:45 US, if I'm not mistaken. Kevin, do you know where people can watch them?
Yes. If you just give me 1 second, I believe it is going to be on Fox Sports 1. I'll pull it up in 1 second, but I mean, it doesn't really matter because they're going to get smacked around. So everybody's going to want to tune in to see them getting smacked around. I mean, if Porto wasn't playing, I definitely would tune into it. So, actually, the game in the United States is on ESPN Deportes and Fox Sports 2. And let me just see for Canada real quick, because I know we have some Canadian viewers here. BN Sports Canada, and that's pretty much it.
All right. So 2:45, tune in to see Sporting get smacked around by Real Madrid. If you can't watch it, I'll be tweeting live updates from our Twitter at PTFootypodcast. So be sure to see if Sporting can get a shock win or draw. Which doubt. But anyway, that's all for Sporting, I suppose. So we're moving on to Porto. Kevin, you guys played Guimarães, you won 3-0. I believe Marcano, Oliver Torres, and João Aurelio with an own goal were the goal scorers. You played Casillas in goal, Ayun, Felipe Marcano, and Alex Telles across the back, Danilo and Andre in the midfield, Otávio and Oliver Torres on the wings. And the striker partnership of Andre Silva and De Poitre. What did you think of this tactical change by Nuno?
I think it was a good tactical change. In the beginning of the match, I would say within the first 15 minutes, I guess you could say we were adjusting to the new system with De Poitre and Andre Silva starting up front. I like the partnership up front because, although in one way it's going to kind of take away goals from Andre Silva, but that's fine because that allows Andre Silva to play a little bit more freely. So I thought that was a good tactical change. Besides the first 15 minutes, which we were a little bit on our back foot, I thought after that we played very well. I think that the team is starting to gel a little bit more now with the addition of Oliver. Can't say too much about Jota yet. He didn't play that many minutes, but the whole second half we dominated. We started the second half scoring a goal within the first 30 seconds. That pretty much killed off the game. We could have scored more. It was a good team performance overall. I'm very proud of the guys. I know that a lot of fans from different teams, different team a specific one who thinks they're going to win the league. They're in the top. One of their fans, you know who I'm talking about, Peter, said that we're on the down and we're not playing good and Braga's better than us. But I mean, first of all, who are they to even talk about Porto the way that they play? Because when we went to Alvalade, the only reason they won was because they had help from a ref who has a son in the junior ranks of Sporting. But anyway, back to the Porto game. Overall good performance. Very happy with the team, like I said, and I liked the second half very much. We dominated the second half. First half a little shaky, but overall a very good performance.
All right, what did you think of the Plata? Are you seeing anything that you like from him, or what did you think of his performance?
Yeah, he's a big body in the box. He had that deflection, the assist to Marcano. So that's the type of things that he's going to have to do to help us up front. He's a big body. He's strong. He can hold off defenders. He was getting grabbed and pushed in the box, and he held his own and was able to get a nice flick on. And I think that was intentional. I don't think he was trying to get the ball actually on goal, but just to give it a little touch and just put it in the danger area right in the middle, see who can get to it. And luckily, and I'm happy that Marcano was there and he buried it and made it 1-0. So he's going to be good too, because even when he's not in the box and he's outside the box, he can hold the ball up and wait for Andres Silva and whoever can join the attack. So that's another thing that I have to point out about the Patra.
What did you think of Guimarães though? Because they were threatening, at least for a little bit. Did you think that they pushed you hard? I mean, if you didn't score that second goal right in the 46th minute, do you think that it would have been a lot more difficult to win?
It's kind of tough to say because it was like right at the beginning of the second half, but I think that in the second half we would have dominated either way. We went in with the mentality to kill the game off, and I think that's what Nuno told the guys in the locker room at halftime. So I think that it was the game plan to just come out of the attack and try to get a goal early in the second half, so then we can try to slow down a little bit and get ready for the match against Copenhagen. But they scored the second goal and they went looking for more. So I guess it was just go out there, kill the game off, and settle down a bit.
All right. Did you think that the new and Andre were did well, being a partnership, like the only two guys in the midfield? Because you normally play a 4-3-3. This time you played a 4-4-2. How do you think they handle themselves? Information.
I thought they handled themselves well. It was typical Danilo as the defensive midfielder role. Andre was very well joining the attack, and I do have to point out Miguel Ayun. He helped out with the attack big time. I know it left a gap in the right back position for us, but I think that was done purposely. But that definitely helped us a lot. So, he joined the attack a lot, so that left you with three. Maybe they were doing a 3-5-2 or something around there. So he was changing the tactic throughout the match. But as far as the midfield goes, they played very, very well. Kudos to Oliver, who played a very good goal. I'm surprised they didn't credit him with the goal, actually, because it came off him. I know it's a deflection, but
I think it was given to him.
It was? Alright, because throughout the match, I think they gave it to Otavio.
I think they gave it to him. Listen, I know that we're only 4 games in, or technically 6 games in for you because you played the Champions League playoffs. But what is the player that you're most impressed with out of all the signings that you made? Is it Alex Telles or the returning Otavio?
Oh, I gotta say Otavio. It's kind of hard not to say his name. He's been very impressive for us, and I've mentioned this in the preseason. If he kept his form up from the preseason, carrying it over into the season, he's going to help us a lot, and that's been the case so far, and I hope he keeps it up. I don't see any signs of him slowing down. I think he wants to be there. You can tell he's doing his best. He's doing what he can, and he's been one of our best players even even though he wasn't there um, last season, and now this
Yeah.
season he just joined. He's definitely showing his worth, and kind of like this is what you missed last season. And I think that if he was there last season and had a Lopetegui not got sacked at the time that he got sacked, I think the season would have turned out differently. But the past is the past. Got to leave that behind. But I'm glad that Nuno came in and called him back. I know that he was going to get recalled anyway, but I think that Nuno sees that potential in him.
Um, Listen, and the last thing that I want to touch upon before just quickly previewing Copenhagen, I think, or at least in my opinion, I see a little bit of chemistry between Otavio and Andre Silva, like big time. They play like they known each other for years. How do you feel about that? Do you have the same opinion as me?
I definitely do. And with the two legs against Roma, uh, and even in the league, there's that over the top pass where Andres Silva is being covered by two defenders, and he just chips it over, and Andres Silva beats the defenders. I forgot what game it was exactly, but they missed it on the first try. I think it was. He did the chip pass the first time he didn't score. He didn't shoot the ball right, Andres Silva. Then a few minutes later they did it again, and they were successful. So you could tell they do have good chemistry. They have a good partnership up at the front, and have a very good understanding. It reminds me almost of some of the Benfica players on the attack. Who was it? It was like Rafa Silva, and who was it that Gage. All right, it just reminded me of that, like the chemistry that Otavio has with the Andres Silva is what I saw with Rafa and Gage.
Yeah, I feel the same way as well. And we're gonna talk about it right in a couple of minutes. But Kevin, just finishing up on Porto and moving on to the Copenhagen game. Uh, what do you think that Porto, basically, what do you think they're gonna do to win that match? Do you think that they're gonna come out the same way with the 4-4-2? Are they gonna play the 4-3-3? And are they going all out attack straight from the get go?
I think that they'll go with the 4-4-2 again. I think he'll repeat it because that was one of the best performances we've had all season. Was the game against Guimarães. So don't fix it if it ain't broken, So start it again. I don't think they'll go for the like an all-out attack all game, but they will dominate. They will be attacking all game, but not like a full-blown attack. I think that they'll come out, try to score early, and settle things down as soon as they can. I think it's going to be a comfortable win for us. I'm not saying that we're going to blow out Copenhagen, but we should easily beat them at least 3-4-0, in my opinion. So I think that.
Yeah.
What are you going to say?
I was going to point out that I know it's a different manager, but last year, at least I expected you guys to beat Dynamo Kiev quite comfortably and ended up losing. I think major key for Porto to win is not underestimate Copenhagen. I think that's got to be in the back of the player's mind, or else if they get too sloppy, they might end up conceding first. Who knows? That's what I was going to say.
No, and I agree with you. I was just about to say that. I was going to say, with all due respect to Copenhagen, we got to try to score first, take the wind out of their sails. I think if we manage to make it 2-0, then you can start controlling the ball and killing the clock a little bit and get ready for the weekend's game. So, like I said, should be comfortable, at least 3-4-0 in my opinion. Could be even 2-0, that's it. With all due respect to FC Copenhagen.
Yeah. All right. So before I just move on to Benfica, I just want to ask you if you managed to watch a little bit of the game of Benfica Roca with Roca, just to see if I can ask you a couple of questions as well.
I didn't see much of it, honestly. I did see just before the Rafa injury, I saw the play with the penalty.
Okay.
I saw bits and pieces of it.
You got what I wanted, so that's fine.
Okay.
Listen up. Moving on to Benfica now. Obviously, played at Roca and won 2-1. Nelson Smith and Lisandro were the goal scorers. The starting 11 was Júlio César in goal, Nelson Smith, Lisandro, Jardel, and Grimaldo across the back, with Peza and Horta. The midfielders, Salvio, Pizzi out wide, Rafa behind Gedge. And Brian, first
Mhm.
question isn't what did you think of the game, is how well Rafa handled himself in this team with just two practices.
Well, first I thought we started off very well. We looked like we really wanted to score early, and we just looked up for it, which I know in the back of the players' minds they might have been worried because we lost there last season. But we really started off well, and I think there's probably credit due to Rui Vitória, who probably tried to keep him strong and let him know that this is a different season, a different game. And yeah, and Rafa to me looked great. He slipped right in. He was one of our best players that game before he got injured, obviously. And yeah, with just two practices, he just looked so comfortable, like he had been with us for a few seasons already. So hopefully, when he gets back from his injury and he trains even more, he should be a starter. He should be a starter. I don't know if he'll be behind his striker if Mitroglou and Jonas come back, but I would like to see him on the wing.
At least on the left wing to replace
Yeah,
PZM.
yeah.
Another bad game for PZ, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, PZ, I honestly don't understand it. I think since the last 5 or 6 games of last season, PZ's been terrible. I mean, I don't know. I used to blame fatigue, but I can't blame fatigue now because it's a new season. So I just don't understand why he starts every game. Maybe Rui Vitória sees something in him that we don't, maybe a tactical side, but I honestly think I don't understand how we have Carrillo, who's came on and scored not too long ago, and he should be starting and given a chance. But hopefully, hopefully PZ sits bench next game. I doubt
The
it, but
only the only aspect where I see PZ being important is whenever Benfica are defending it while he shifts into the middle and he ends up controlling the ball quite well. But the
yeah.
issue that I have with him is that I honestly think that he overthinks everything. Like he
Hmm.
does not turn things simple. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but it
Yeah.
always feels like, for example, he has a guy on his right and he has space to shoot, but he's thinking about switching the play to the other side when he has two viable options right there. Uh, so I think that he needs to rest, at least give him a rest, see if he you know
No, I
gets his
agree.
mind straight. Because I honestly don't understand, because he last season he was good until the last couple of games, as you've said, and I think he went down to fatigue that he couldn't play as well. But
Yeah.
now, honestly, I'm just starting to think that he overthinks everything and doesn't make things simple. Even today, I know I'm gonna get into it, but he tried a couple of trivelas, and I was like, why? Why did he try, a difficult hill when he could have just passed it off or crossed it in?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's quite weird with him, but it is what it is. We're stuck with him, I think. Um, a good thing though, Jardel came back from injury, at least for one game. Now, how did you feel about that, Brian?
I thought Shadao looked good. I saw some people on Twitter saying that he looked rusty, but I honestly don't think Oroka tested us too much, especially in that first half. They were pretty quiet, so we didn't get to see too much of Jardao. But it's important that he plays. Obviously, he got injured again, or it might be something small this time. But it's important that we have Jardao, and once we have Jardao and Lindelof together, our defense will be much better because we tend to concede at least a goal a game, which is pretty annoying. Even if it's right at the end, we tend to concede a goal, even if the game's won. So, but yeah, I'm happy he played, and hopefully it's not a serious injury this time, and hopefully he'll be back for the weekend. I'm not exactly sure how long he's supposed to be out.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can at least have a couple of players back for Monday's game against Braga, 8 p.m. local, by the way. So that's 3 p.m. in the U.S., 4 p.m. in the Bermudas.
Yeah,
Where Brian is, of course. That's why I give him
yeah,
a little shout there. Um, Listen up, Brian. On the first half, Benfica were just dominating Aroca, getting chances left, right, and center. Rafa could have even have an hat trick.
yeah.
Do you think that that's down to how fast the team played, or is it also a little bit of sloppy defending by Aroca?
No, I honestly think a team like Benfica needs to always play fast because when we play fast, these smaller sides in Portugal can't handle it. And when you notice when we play slow possession football, those teams love when we do that because they're just closing up and knowing that we're going to pass the ball back and forward very slowly. So I think it comes down to our pace with the ball. And if we play like that in more games, then we should win games much more easily. If you notice against Stubo, I thought we played way too slow, way too much possession. And then against Aroka, we came out explosive. And if we had better finishing, I mean, we could have easily won that game 4-5 or 6-1 or whatever it was, you know.
So now moving on to the second half, it's impossible not to talk about the half a penalty. Now, do you believe also that it is a penalty or?
Yeah, I think it's a penalty, and I say that because if you play football, if you're running at that pace, any little thing can take you down. And Ruff is very quick. So if you're going at that speed, a shove in the back will take you down. In my opinion, it's a penalty. He puts his arm clearly on his back, and it takes him off of his balance. I think it should have been given a penalty. I don't know, maybe the referee thought he went down a little too easily, but like I said, you have to put in fact that he is very quick. And when you move at that pace, you're going to go down. If he was walking, of course he wouldn't go down. But he's so quick, he was at full sprint. I think it's a clear penalty, and it should have been. And right after they scored, and that affected us a bit.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, even the Sport TV guy said, "Listen, let's think this through. Rafa is one-on-one with the goalkeeper on his debut for a new team. Now, why would he fall down if he didn't get touched? So I think it is a wrong
Exactly.
decision, and even worse, it would have been a penalty, a sending off, and possibly another goal, and that turns into an Aroca goal. And I was speaking to you earlier before the match started, and I said, dude, I'm worried about this Walter Gonzalez because he's a good kid. And I
Yeah,
was surprised that he didn't start, but as soon as he came on, bam, he scored. Um,
yeah,
and then from then on, I believe that Aroca, played their game. They tried threatening us, but as soon as Samaris came in, uh, we got control of the game. Now, do you think that Samaris is useful as a sub, like this way, playing this way when we're, hanging, for a win, and he comes on
yeah.
and we stabilize? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I definitely think he changed the game a bit. He brought more control, slowed it down a little bit because Oreko was trying to get back into it. He's definitely an important player to be a substitute. Obviously, I prefer Faja to always start as our number 6 and not Samaris. But like you said, to come into a game where we're winning 1-0 or 2-1, Samaris is huge. Even today in the Champions League, I think that was the plan. We'll talk about that later, obviously. But yeah, I think he's huge in that situation. So it was a good thing that he came in and he helped us a lot. It's good we kept him and didn't sell him.
Hmm. Uh,
Yeah.
and you know what about this game? I don't think there's really much to talk about. I mean, Zé Gomes. I guess you can talk about the last play of the game. Now, how do you feel that Zé Gomes did on the final 2 minutes that he couldn't even score the goal? How do you feel about that?
I was happy he came in. I thought he should have come in a little earlier because like we don't have strikers. Rafa had come off injured, so I would have liked to have seen him come in earlier and given a real shot. But yeah, he played just a few minutes. He looked good. He almost scored. He was just off of the ball by just about a yard or less than that. But yeah, I think he should be given a chance. You see some young players coming up that are good. You see that AC Milan goalkeeper who is 16 and now he's a starter. You see André Silva for Pudo as a starter. So who knows if this Gomes guy won't be a starter for us? I think he should be given a proper chance, especially because we have no strikers.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. And now I'm gonna break things up a little bit here with Benfica, and I'm moving on to a subject to that Kevin wanted to talk about, and obviously we're gonna get to the refereeing. Um, so if I'm not gonna miss out on anything, let's see. There's just this weekend. There's a penalty on Benfica that doesn't get called. There's a Chaves offside goal that was wrongly ruled out. There's a Estoril goal that was also wrongly disallowed by offside. There's there's Andre Silva's goal that was wrongly disallowed. There's Jelson's goal that is both offside and a handball. Kevin, we gotta start doing something about this. Like, what is going on right now?
It's an embarrassment to the league. This is disgusting, and we've talked about this earlier in the week, Peter. And I'm gonna tell everybody like how I told you. If you're gonna talk about the refs, you gotta talk about the refs even when you do win. There's no sense in talking about it if you end up getting a draw or a loss. That just makes it totally irrelevant. Now, 3 out of the 4 games, Porto have been clearly screwed. Okay, but Sporting was atrocious, and I've said that before. Gelson Martins on the first goal. Before that, Slimani is the one that committed the foul on Marcano. Second of all, Marcano didn't even touch Slimani, and Slimani dove. Then on the free kick, the ball hit off the post, went to Gelson, came off his chest and hit him in the arm. I think he slightly touched it with his arm. He still didn't score it, but obviously Slimani tapped it in. Then there was the second handball, which I think it's a handball. That's just my opinion. I know everybody has their own. But to me, that's a handball. Like Simon said when he was on with us, that, it caused an advantage, and it did. It led to a goal. Now, if you're going to call a handball for one team, like against with Porto and Guimarães with André Silva on that goal, that was clean. If they're going to call a handball on André Silva that close, then you got to call the handball on Ruiz. You got to call the handball on Gelson. Now, it's not only Porto that got screwed. Benfica got screwed against Aroca.
And against
Sporting. And against Stubble on the offside goal, like I said. Now, that was a blown call because, like, looking at it as we watched the goal, we didn't really think about it, but we're looking at the replay. That's one that the linesman should have got because he was right there. He should have caught that. He's a professional. That's what he's getting paid for. Us as spectators, it's not our job. But then when we see it, we have a right to critique their work. So why is it that every team is not getting the benefit of the doubt, but the team wearing the green and white stripes, the hoops there, why are they getting the benefit? You got 2 referees. The one that ref the Porto game, he has a son in the junior rankings of Sporting. Conflict of interest, but that's okay. He can still call the game because he'll be impartial, according to whoever the hell picks the refs. Second one, the game against Moreirense, Hugo Miguel works for Macron. Macron makes the jerseys for Sporting. No conflict of interest there. That's fine.
Yo, Kevin, and there's something, you just reminded me of something very, very funny, because about 2 years ago, I think, it was 2 years ago, when Sporting played the Schalke, and I showed you that penalty where Jonathan gets hit with the ball in the face, and they call a penalty. The first thing that Sporting said is, dudes, Schalke is Gazprom, and Gazprom sponsors the Champions League. There's conflict of interest right there. So it's funny that they pointed that out, but with Hugo Miguel, they let that slide, and I remember it was Hugo Gil that brought that up last year. And I don't know why they're calling these refs when, they have people, their son's playing for Sporting, or they're working for Macron. I think there's a little bit of conflict of interest there. And as I told you yesterday, and I don't want to fully, talk about it because, we're online and everything gets thrown around, but from what I heard, or what my dad told me, is that they're making certain districts have a certain number of referees, and that's hurting the other districts where they have good referees, but because of the count being so low that they can't, get up to the certain stage that they should be. And that also the new referees that are all coming up seem to be very poor. This was told to my dad by Football Observant, the referee Observant that calls the referees in the Liga. So there's certainly an issue here, and I don't know how to deal with this, honestly. And it sucks because we're 4 weeks in and we're already talking about the referees, and we're winning. that is the weird thing. We're winning, but we're talking about the referees anyway because they are having such an influence that it's impossible not to talk about it.
Yep.
Yeah, and that penalty with the Rafa, I want to touch on that since you guys talked about it. Now, the same referee that called Rio Ave Porto and Roca Benfica, same ref. Now, the one with who was in the
Otavio.
box? Otavio. He got brought down. That one, clear penalty. Yeah, Rafa, you could argue that he went down easily, but here's the thing. It's the same exact play. The player from Oroka, the defender, went right through Rafa. Rafa had all the momentum going towards the net, and the other one took him out. Like, it wasn't that much of a touch, but it was enough to put him off. Because if he didn't do that, Rafa would have stood on his feet, and he most likely would have scored. So that right there, that should have been a penalty, first of all. And then second of all, that should have been a red. Now, what happened? You guys got screwed out of a penalty call, correct? Oroka comes back and scores the goal. Now, what happens if Oroka, at that point, it's 2-1, and they start coming up Benfica and even getting a draw? You guys are screwed because the referee missed a call that was the same exact call that he called with the Rio Ave Porto, which was the right call and the correct red card. So, to me, what are the standards? Why is it a different standard for Sporting, and why is it a different standard for every other team? André Silva against Sporting got called for offside when he was clearly onside. I don't know what the linesman was thinking. And then, like you mentioned with Chaves, and then Vitória Setúbal with that offside goal against Benfica. Like, what I want to know is, what are the standards? The referee for the Rio Ave Porto game called it a penalty, but for the Aroca Benfica game, he didn't. What's the criteria? What are they even looking for? I think that they're so confused. They don't know what the hell they're doing. I think that the league is better off getting other international refs from different federations to call the games because it's getting out of hand. And Bruno de Carvalho was always the first one to come out when Sporting didn't win and try to blame the refs for everything. Now he's getting the benefit. Where is he? He's not saying anything.
Yeah, he's even saying publicly that Benfica and Porto are already complaining about the referees. And that he's very happy with the refereeing.
Yeah, of course he is. Why wouldn't he be? If it was me, I'd be happy with the refereeing too because we were getting the benefit.
Yeah.
And he acts like such a little bitch too, Like, he was always the first one there. Oh, this and that, this and that, this and that. And now they want to come out and try to attack Porto and Benfica talking about the refs. Okay.
And they threw the referees left, right, and center, even when they weren't right. When they drew Tondela at home 2-2, Rui Patricio got sent off on a penalty, and everybody saw that it was a blatant penalty, and they ended up drawing 2-2. And what does Bruno Carvalho at the end of the game says? He says that he wouldn't kick the referee in the ass because he probably would have liked it.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the same game with the throw-in though?
No, it's a different one. No, it was in the second part of the season. So he also spoke ill about the referees, even when he wasn't right, and he didn't get banned or anything. And Wishy Pieta said in his interview, and he was right. Look, I've spoken in the last 3 seasons. I think he said 3 or 4 seasons, twice about the referees. He was back last year when we played Rio Ave with Manuel de Oliveira, and I spoke this year when we played Vitória Setúbal with Manuel de Oliveira. Now, why is this happening with the same referee? He also put that into question,
Well, I think. Can I just say? I think with Sporting, I think Bruno Carvalho's had a plan since he became president of Sporting. Is that what he's doing is almost scaring these referees by every single game. He's blaming the referee for Benfica win or blaming the referee for Sporting loss or draw. That then affects a referee. Whenever now he's reffing a Sporting game, he's afraid to give a penalty to Porto or afraid to give a penalty to whoever that's playing against Sporting because he's afraid that Bruno Carvalho's going to come down on him, and then the whole fan base and everything is going to come down on him, which is why we see now Benfica against Setúbal. That was one of the worst referees I've seen in a long time. I mean, no calls were going towards Benfica. Raul Jimenez even won a ball 100% clean, and which would have started a counter-attack, and he gave Raul a yellow card, which was absolute. And that right there, I said, is like, this referee he can't be clean. I'm not saying he's getting paid or anything, but I think he's influenced or he's afraid of something. I don't know. But you see
Yeah.
it now. Like, you see Brun Courtois quiet and you don't see too many sporting people talking about refs. But you see Benfica and Porto has been getting screwed, and I think it's all comes down. It was just a plan by Brun Courtois to scare
Uh,
these referees.
and listen, you've got a perfect point here because last year, I don't know if you guys remember, but I think it was Manuel Mota, I believe that is the referee, that owns a butcher shop, and he got completely destroyed by Sporting fans twice or three times that year. Well, I mean, I
Yeah,
think that was last season. I think that they are influencing them, and I'm not saying that they're getting paid exactly like you said, but they had
yeah,
that little bug in the back of their head that, like, for example, what happened last year is nobody in the world would have dreamed that Porto would get robbed at their own stadium with a penalty, and a blatant one. 5 years ago, these people wouldn't even dream about that, but it happened last year with Coates when he clearly pushed Abubakar, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a blatant penalty. Everybody could see it, and he got waved off, and I was like, what just happened? Did Porto just get robbed on their own stadium against Sporting?
Yeah,
uh,
and I got one more thing to say.
mhm.
Going back to the I want to talk about the rest, what their standards are. I'm still unclear what their standards are. Like I said, for one team that's wearing green and white, they're pressuring the refs. He might as well even pay them. What he's doing really is getting his work done for free. Like Brian said it good. As soon as he came in, all he wanted to do is talk about the refs and pressure the refs that Sporting are getting screwed, Porto's getting the benefit, Benfica's getting the benefit. That's like putting pressure on them to be like, well, you better start doing stuff in our favor or else because this and that. And then their fans are acting out against the refs, like you said, Peter. So going back to their standards and criteria. Now, Bruno Cesar, with a dirty tackle, direct red, didn't get it. William Carvalho came in, studs up on somebody. He got the same thing against in the game against Morenez. The Morenez player came in the same exact way that William did. Red card for the Morenez player, and it wasn't even supposed to be a second yellow. That's supposed to be a direct red. But in the end, he got the red. I think that even if he didn't, if it wasn't the second yellow, he would have got the direct red. So
Yeah.
why is it that when William did it, it's not, but William gets it and it is? You know what I mean? I don't know what the standards are. I don't know what the criteria is. I guess it's we're scared of Sporting. We don't want to upset them. Let's try to give them the benefit of the doubt as much as they can. They haven't won in so long. Porto and Benfica have been the most successful clubs. So let's see if we could just try to take the heat off of us a little bit and just let them do what they want. That's what it feels like.
And
It's annoying.
there's a really easy way, Kevin, and I'm gonna ask you to pay attention to that. Brian, not you, because you're probably not gonna
hmm
be here next week. But
hmm
if you want to know when the referee is screwing a team, just check how many fouls they let slide in the midfield for the other team and how many they call against you. That's the biggest point where a referee can absolutely destroy a game for a team. So Kevin, if you keep an eye out to that, if you watch Sporting and then you watch Porto and then you watch Benfica, you'll realize that they are letting things slide for Sporting, and we talked about this yesterday, and Brian obviously also remembers when Jorge Jesus 2 seasons ago when we played Braga, he put that pressure on the referees saying Braga week in week out are making hard challenges. They are not letting us play football. It needs to be stopped. Brian, you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, I remember.
And
Yeah,
they played the exact same way against Porto a couple of games ago because it's working in his favor now, so he's not complaining. But
yeah,
Sporting's team is being very aggressive. I don't know if both of you agree with me on this one.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I mean, something has got to change. Something has got to happen because I don't want to spend the rest. I don't know, like 30 podcasts or 28
Yeah.
podcasts discussing the referees. It's got to change. They got to do something about it, and it's got to go public. It has to go public because we need to understand what's going on. But unless there's anything you want to add, Either of you, do you guys want to add anything to this?
I was just gonna say, I think what has to happen is the Portuguese FA is just too soft on things like that. You know, in England or in Spain, well, at least in England, you can't talk about referees that easily, and you get suspended very quickly. Bruno Carvalho, like I said, when he first got to Sporting, yeah, he gets suspended every once in a while, but he used to complain about refs every single week, and say that Benfica are paying referees, and also I'm sure he claimed that Porto were paying refs. So it has to come down to the FA. And when Sporting don't get their way, they go to the dirty tactics of blaming referees. For instance, last year they were in first almost the whole season. Once Benfica beat them and we then became first, all you started to hear about was the referees again. While we were 7 points behind them, you didn't hear about referees when we were 7 points behind. So they just have dirty tactics, and the Portuguese FA have to just come down harder on any club, not just Sporting, or any club that tries to pressure referees into helping the team.
I agree. Kevin, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, and there's a difference between, when you actually get screwed and coming out and speaking about it. You're not trying to put pressure on a ref.
Right.
Week in and week out, there was Bruno Carvalho saying this, saying that. And that's putting pressure. Benfica got screwed, and, Rui Vitória came out at the end of the game and he said that, that was a penalty, was bullshit, and I have to agree with him. He was upset, and he had a right to be. Granted, Benfica won, that's fine, but at least he brought it up and he mentioned it. That's not putting pressure. He's just saying his displeasure with the officiating. What's going to be done? You gotta have pretty soon. It's going to be that you're going to have like referees from different federations calling these games. In England, like you said, you don't really hear the coaches talking about refs. Why? Because number one, it's not even because they're not supposed to. For number one, they really don't have a reason to talk about the refs. Those refs are like the highest quality refs you can get within Premier League and La Liga. I think that the Premier League has the best refs. You always see those referees in the European competitions like the Champions League.
Just to add to your argument, Mark Clattenburg called both the Champions League final and the European final. So not that I like him, but he is a quality referee.
He's a great referee, Clattenburg, and we need more Clattenburgs. But the referee, I don't know if you guys know who he is, but Pierluigi Collina was one of the best referees that ever lived. He's one of the. He was one of the best referees that ever lived. And
he's the one that's in charge of calling the referees for the Champions League matches. He's the one that makes the call.
And he does a great job. Where do you really hear of controversial plays in the Champions League? It happens. It's going to happen. You can't avoid it. But how often do you hear it in the Champions League? A blown call. You don't really hear about it. Exactly.
There's a couple every I don't know, like 20 games. I can remember the Philip Lahm penalty against Benfica.
You can't avoid it all the time.
But what I was gonna say is that like there's like 20 matches, and in 20 you hear one complaint or two. While in the Portuguese league, it's like every single match. Like I said in the beginning when I started talking, it's the Chaves, it's the Araucas, it's the Benfica, the Porto, the Boavista. It's keep happening to several teams, and in one match day, that's just terrible.
Yeah, that's true.
So Kevin, if you want to finish your point, sorry I got in your way.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna go back since we're on the topic of the Champions League. The first match that Porto had against Roma, the referee did a good job. He missed the handball penalty. It happens. I'm gonna let that go because I don't think he was trying to screw us. But even in the second leg, the referee didn't care. He sent out two Roma players, in an important game like that, where it was win or go home for one of those teams. So it goes to show you that those referees have guts. The Portuguese referees have their tail between their legs because they're worried about what's going to be said. These referees, they need to be protected too, but then again, you got to look and see if there's a conflict of interest. You can't have a referee who works for Macron calling a game for the team that you make a jersey for. You can't referee a game where your son is in the junior rankings. Come on, common sense. Avoid those refs for those kinds of games, right? And protect the refs. Anybody who talks about the refs gets a fine. and if it keeps going, then start deducting points.
Yeah.
You're gonna start having to do that. It's getting ridiculous out of hand, and I don't like to talk about the refs, but enough is enough, and we're only 4 games in, and I'm already
Yeah.
fed up with it.
Exactly. That's what what we got into in the end. So something's got to change. The FA's got to work on something. But I think this is done and dusted. I mean, we're beating around the bush now, so there's no point in continuing this talk. Hopefully, next week I won't have to come here and say that Benfica got screwed or that Sporting or Porto got screwed. Even though that I doubt that Sporting would ever get screwed. But moving on to the very sour note of today's podcast, at least for the Benfiquistas, we drew. Besiktas 1-1. Servi scored on the 12th minute, and then a 93-minute free kick goal by Talisca, as we quite know him from. So Ederson was in goal. Nelson Smith, Lisandro Lindelof, and Grimaldo across the back. Feza and Horta, Salvio and Pizzi, Servi and Guedes were the two men in front. Brian, surprised to see Ederson start?
No, I wasn't surprised. I was actually hoping he would start even in the league soon. I think when it comes to quality, Ederson is just the same as Julio Cesar, just doesn't have the same experience. But we saw last season, Ederson came in super important time against Sporting, against Zenit St. Petersburg, and was brilliant. Even against Bayern Munich, he's helped us a lot. So I think Rui Vitória is going to mix the goalkeepers up a lot. And I think Ederson's competition will definitely be the Champions League and maybe even the league because, I mean, the one thing that he has better than Julio Cesar is the distribution. His kicks are absolutely incredible. So no, I wasn't surprised by that.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that we saw was again PZ having a bad game. Were you surprised to see Servi get the nod to play behind Gedge?
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be Carrillo. I thought Carrillo would start just because I don't know. I kind of pictured Carrillo being better up top than Servi. Um, so yeah, I was surprised by that. But Servi, he scored the goal. He wasn't that impressive, but at the same time, it's not his position. It's not something he's used to. So I can't really blame him for that. But I'm happy he scored, of course.
Mm-hmm. And now, what did you think of our performance overall? What did you think of the game?
Well, I felt like it was a real Rui Vitoria performance in Europe. Like we started off slow, Besiktas had the ball, and we just kind of let them have it. And then, Horta made that great pass to Salvio, which we ended up scoring. And then we controlled the game a bit more. We had some really good flashy plays. We played really well towards the end of the first half, in my opinion. It was
Mm-hmm.
overall, it wasn't a bad performance. The only thing I wish is that we made some subs early in the game, um, because you could see that in the second half they were
Everybody
starting to
became tired.
control. Yeah,
Yeah.
Benfica was tired, and you could see Besiktas was getting. They were starting to control the midfield. Quaresma was always dangerous, whether he was on the left or the right, and we had to probably put somebody in earlier and control that midfield better. And then we could see how tired and poor Pizzi and Selvio were. Why not play a guy like Carrillo who's been playing well when he comes in? I just don't understand why he doesn't come in and why he doesn't start. So hopefully Rui Vitória and his coaches realize that no, that Pizzi is just not good enough. The best thing for Pizzi would be for him to sit bench maybe a couple of games so he can realize that he needs to work harder, that he needs to play better. Because sometimes players need that tough love to know. Because if he never sits bench, he's gonna think, well, I'm doing fine. He
Yeah.
has to realize he's not doing good, and he has to sit bench soon.
I also think that Pizzi would be an incredible player to bring off the bench because he'd be
Yep.
fresh and he's just like Lima on the way that he thinks quite fast. Like I've said, the issue with him is that he overthinks, but when he's fresh, he thinks quickly, he acts quickly, and going up
Yeah.
against a weakened defense, I think he would help him out a lot. So I mean, hopefully he will get benched at least for a game or two.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Overall, the game was, uh, decent. We played our typical style of football where we let the team dominate at first,
Yeah.
always looking for the counters, and then we took over the game when we scored. Then around the 60th minute, we should have made at least two substitutions, in my opinion, because the team looked weak. And with Besiktas also making subs. It wasn't just the fact that Benfica wasn't changing the game, was that Besiktas was trying to change the game, and they kept making subs and putting players in the midfield, so they were always fresher than us. So I think we had to counter that, but unfortunately we didn't, and we ended up hitting a 93rd minute free kick goal by Talisca. Now, there's just something that really impressed me a little bit, and I'm not sure if you have the same opinion as me, but I think that Arnaldo Teixeira handled himself, besides the subs overall the game, I think that he handled himself quite well.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think we look good out there. I think he did handle it well, like you said. The only problem was the subs, but overall he looked like he could be there, permanently. Obviously, I prefer Ray Vittoria, of course. But
Yeah,
what I mean is that he looked good, right? And the team looked solid. We did look solid, and let's not forget we're missing arguably our best center back. We're missing three main strikers, and
the best player of the team, the best player in the team.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just an effect. Also not forget, our average team today was 22 years old, the average age of the
Yeah,
team.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
very young team, and I still expect to make it out this group. But the most important that I'm so happy with Rui Vitória is that it's like a revolution at Benfica, where before with Jorge Jesus, it was always buy the best players now, even if they're foreign, just buy them and we'll try to win the league. While with Rui Vitória is more we have to build a base and now I'm super proud of Benfica for doing that. A lot of young players and this is going to be great for the upcoming seasons as well.
And
Hopefully.
our performance in the Champions League is being solid. I know that we drew today, and obviously we don't want to draw. We wanted to win because
Yeah.
we were the better team for most of the game. But Benfica is back to their old ways, where we're playing Champions League football. We're there to win. Like, I don't
Yeah.
care if it's Barcelona, I don't care if it's Real Madrid, I don't care if it's Bayern Munich. Hell, I don't care who the hell it is. We're there.
Yeah.
We're there to win it. And I think that's very good by Rui Vitória, how he established Benfica back as a good team in the Champions League.
Yeah.
I also want to point out for a couple of minutes that Grimaldo was unconscious due to a Quaresma shot. So, but he looked fine after that. He gave me a little bit of a scare.
Yeah.
Always bring back the fair moment, but
Yeah.
he was fine and ended up playing throughout the 90 minutes. Um, and Brian.
Mhm.
I know we're only 5 games in, or 6 games in technically because we played, this match. So we
Yeah.
played for the league plus the Supertaça and all these. We're 6 games in, but holy hell, what a player Arte is.
Yeah. Yeah. He's been to take over a position that Renato Sanchez had and we all know Renato Sanchez is world famous. So it's a lot of pressure for horses to take on his shoulders. But he's a little more quiet than Sanchez, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. He does a lot of work in that midfield. His long range passes are beautiful. We saw that in preseason against Wolfsburg, I believe. We saw that today. And he just works really hard. And another thing, when you have players from the youth team, obviously he came from Stubble, but he started in our academy. When you have players from our academy, they just have a passion for the club, which is you can't really get that with a lot of foreign players. And you could see that passion runs through his veins, and he gives 110%. He was unlucky not to score. He's going to be a huge player for us this season, and he's so young. And like I said, it's great. We see a revolution with Benfica. We finally start to see Portuguese players. We're seeing academy players, and it's great. It's great for us.
Yeah, Orta was amazing, and the whole team did well. But Orta is that guy that even if you don't notice that he's there, he's there.
Yeah,
He can
exactly.
show up at any
Exactly.
moment, even if it's on the attack or on the defense. I think a couple of games ago, my dad was saying, "Dude, Orta was bad," and I was like, "No, he wasn't. He was great in the midfield. Like he cut down the balls. He didn't create much, but he
Yeah.
defended quite well." And talking about defending, we had about, or Besiktas had about 8 offsides. What does that tell you, Brian? What do you think about the way that we were playing the offside trap today?
Well, I think we've been playing this offside trap for a while, even with our old coach. But I think now Rui Vitória is getting even better. Like that offside trap is beautiful, and it always worries me that one day we're gonna fail. One player's gonna be too late, which I think we have once or twice last season. But I mean, you just see the organization from Rui Vitória and his coaches. It's great. It's great to see, and and that cut out that slows their game down because now they might have something in the back of their mind that they're always going to be offside. So it's great to see it. It just shows we have organization, but now we just have to figure out a way to keep the goal out in other situations, you know. But it's great to see.
And you pointed out something, and I think that was quite interesting. Even last year, we noticed that we conceded a lot
Yeah,
of late goals.
yeah.
Why do you think that we conceded these late goals? Do you think that it's just that we're not concentrated? Is it that we're unlucky? What
I
do you
think
think?
I think I'm not sure because I mean a lot of times when we conceded late goals last season, we were up 3-4 nil. Like you saw our last game of the season, we were up 4-0. Maybe they were celebrating, which is why National ended up scoring. But other games as well, I think that it's just a lapse. But that's something that Vitoria has to work on with the team and maybe shout at them in the last 5 minutes of the game and make sure that they're awake. Because that can't be happening because that's definitely going to hurt our season if it continues to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Pointing out that Fazer did get injured because, and Rui Vitória said so, that he felt a little bit of a knock.
Yeah,
Hopefully, fingers freaking crossed that it's nothing.
I'm taking the rosary out tonight.
Man, I don't want him getting injured, but yeah, that's what he said, that he took a little bit of a knock. Even though that
Yeah,
a couple of minutes afterwards, when the substitution was getting made, he didn't want to get subbed off. He was gesturing to not come off, but he
yeah.
came off. And I don't think there's really much to add to this game. I want to move on to a little bit more controversial topic, unless you want to say anything else about this game, Brian.
No, no. We basically said it all. I'm just impressed with the team. We should have won, but I think we could win away games. I think we could win away games, especially if we have a fully fit team. So it's not over yet. It's just one draw. And let's make it this way. If we win in Turkey, that would be a win and a draw against them. So
Yeah.
that's not bad. And we can do it. We can do it.
Before I talk about what I was going to, Kevin, is there anything that also from the little bit that you've seen of this game, is there anything that you would like to add, or
Yeah, there is, and I saw most of the first half. I thought, from a neutral perspective, I thought that the game was like a little bit sloppy within the first like 20 minutes.
Mhm.
I don't know if you would agree with that, but I thought that like both teams are like just like
nervous?
yeah,
Yeah,
like throwing away passes and stuff. I understand
yeah,
it's the first game of the Champions League, and they're both good teams. So, but like especially in the middle, it was like very sloppy. Besiktas was just slightly playing a little bit better than Benfica within the first like 10
Mhm.
minutes, and the Benfica started coming back. But damn, man, I can see why these guys like don't like Pizzi. Holy shit, he's like on Herrera's level. Like
Oh
they're,
god.
they're both so slow. Like you could tell like he's thinking of what he wants to do, and you can read what he's thinking. It's like, oh my god! I was like, I can't believe it. I was like, I can see like from whenever I watch Benfica, and I watch for Pizzi especially because I hear these guys talk bad about him all the time, and I'm like, wow, man! Like now I can see like why they talk about him the way they do, because the guy is like so freaking slow, and he makes stupid decisions.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes he can make such a good decision, and like he can make a pass. Like there was a play. I think he's the one that had the ball. I was yelling. I'm not even a Benfica supporter, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, pass the ball. I'm like, oh my
And we
god, man!
lost
I'm
it.
like,
Yeah,
Jesus Christ! Like it just makes you like want to yell at him.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's every week it's the same thing. Shoot, pass. Like I find myself screaming at him at least 3 times a game. It's
yeah,
frustrating to watch
yeah.
him. Yeah, and I
Um,
think he needs to get benched, man. He needs to get benched. But thanks for the input there, Kevin. Because it is frustrating to watch PZ, and even a Porto fan can agree to that. So that's how bad it is.
yeah, and I do have to say one thing though. Like I wanted obviously Benfica to do well because it helps Portugal with the coefficients and same thing with Sporting. But forget about tomorrow because they're not going to help us with shit. So if they could deduct points for every goal we get scored on, we'd be in trouble tomorrow. I hope that Sporting does well. You know, maybe they can go for a draw. That would be awesome if they can get a draw. But I just don't see it happening. And I think that Porto's going to win. And hopefully Braga does good Thursday, and we have a good week. Because the tie's not the end of the world. You know, considering what you guys have, These guys are depleted up front. These guys have nobody. So considering what you had, Gage should have scored that on that Quaresma gift. Had he scored that would have been game over. That would have been 3 points for you. 3 important points being depleted with all the injuries you have. So, these guys should be not happy with the draw, but like at least satisfied. You don't have anybody. You were able to get a draw. Yeah, you were at home, but it's tough. Like think about it. You have nobody up front. All you had was Gage. You have Zach Gomes, but he's young. You don't know what he can actually bring to the table. I think that had he scored that goal against Soroka, he would have had his morale up. But I think that like in a way, his morale would have been boosted because he's playing his first Champions League game, his second official Benfica game, I believe. And first, just like thrown into the Champions League, like yeah, that's pressure, but like that's good pressure. Like you're gonna play with like all you can, you're gonna do your best, and you're gonna try to win it for the team. So and he has something to prove.
The thing with Zach Gomes, in my opinion, and I think it was Pedro Henrique that pointed that out on Sport TV, is that if you start him, you don't really have any other options though coming off the bench if you needed him. And I think that was the thing why he stayed on the bench, because he was something different from what you had on the pitch, But the issue was Benfica overall just didn't make any subs, and they should have. And to what you were saying, Nelson said before the match started, with the absence from the squad, I'd be slightly disappointed, but I would accept the draw today. And I think that's exactly what every Benfica fan, thought, because it could have been way worse.
He's right. It's just the way that it happened. Had it been like a 0-0 draw, we wouldn't be that disappointed. But winning 1-0 for so long and then letting it go. But yeah, he is right. In the grand scheme of things, a draw with about 5 starters out, or whatever it is, 3 or 4 starters out, it's not that bad of a result,
It's a point, and points are important to get. Don't forget, second place also goes through. So, worst case scenario, we already got more points than Dinamo Kiev, so you got to think that way.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is what it is. So
that's a tough draw, though. You guys had it, and it came down to the very end. It happens. Clearly, it happens, but like that's got to be kind of like frustrating. Like you guys had it.
Oh yeah, I was so annoyed that I called Brian and I said like 5,000 swear words in 1 minute, because I was watching the thing. I was annoyed because the way that it happened, because we knew we couldn't give away free kicks, and then he gives away that stupid freaking free kick on the 92nd minute.
Yeah.
He frustrated the living hell out of me. And I knew that the Talisca would have scored because it's the Talisca and against Benfica, and that's pretty perfect timing to move on to my next topic here. I want to point out though that Abubakar, and this one I'll talk about this one because this will be a little bit quicker. Abubakar said that he does not want to come back to Porto ever, that they disrespected him, and that he's done with the club. Kevin, thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, he started good for us when we had him as a starter to replace Jackson. He started the first couple of games good, and then he just went to shit. So it's fine. He can stay with Besiktas. That's fine with me. We have Andrés Silva now, who is 10 times better. Abubakar really didn't do anything against Benfica today. So, I mean, it's too bad because he had a lot of potential. He really did have a lot of potential. So, if he's happy there, then so be it. I mean, we have replacements for him. We have Tapatero, we have Andrés Silva. So, it's fine with me. Exactly. So, give us the 10 million and call it a day.
Mm-hmm. And now's the big one. Now it's Talisca. And I want to point out that I retweeted to the podcasts on the podcast Twitter, Salvio just going at Talisca at the end of the game, and then Record made an article about Benfica players going at Talisca because he celebrated the goal, and even Salvio said, ask Talisca why he celebrated that way. I honestly never like seeing players celebrate against their the parent club, the club that they played for. I honestly don't care. I just don't like seeing it. And it got on my nerves, and especially when he said, and I'm quoting Talisca, The goal wasn't a feeling of revenge. Why did I leave Benfica? I still don't know. It's not true that I left for money. They didn't pay me when I left the club. Uh, Brian, I'll let you go at this first.
No, I think Talisca was being kind of immature here. I think I trusted my president, and when Luis Felipe Vieira said that Talisca wanted to leave to Wolverhampton, but I believe paperwork didn't go through or whatever.
Huh?
And now I think he's just taking it out on us. You know, he said right when he left, he said he didn't want to leave. And then just last week, he says he wants to stay at Besiktas, and that's where he's happy. I think no, I don't believe that we didn't pay him, in my opinion. I think he's starting something because he feels hurt that we put him on loan. But I hope he stays there. And I believe there's a 25 million buyout clause or 20
Yeah.
million. I mean, that would be amazing because yeah, he knows how to shoot. He's a decent player, but he's not worth 25 million. So I really hope that they buy him, and yeah, I think we're better off without him. We have good replacements as well. He was a good player to come off the bench and stuff, but I'm not happy with how he's training. He has to remember he's still a Benfica player. Um, and if things go bad at his club now, Besiktas, he has to come back to Benfica and answer some of these questions the way he's talking bad about us. So I think it's
The thing is that we don't lose anything with that. We'll put him on the
exactly,
side. He's the one that's gonna suffer from all this,
exactly.
because we're not. And I'm sorry, Kevin, to take a little bit of the hate of a Porto, but we're not like Porto. If you score against us, then you don't celebrate. You're like, did your
Yeah,
job. I mean, we don't care. Uh, the way that he celebrated, what he said,
yeah,
it's exactly like Trapp. He's never gonna put on a Benfica shirt ever again. And I also do not want to see him ever on a Benfica shirt for what
yeah,
he did. Not because he scored, because he freaking celebrated like he won the bloody Champions League.
yeah, yeah.
Kevin, what are your thoughts on all this controversial deal with Talisca?
First of all, I don't know what happened behind closed doors between Luis Vieira and Talisca. But I
Mm-hmm.
will tell you one thing: he belongs to Benfica, and I think you need to have a little bit more respect for the club that you're still a part of, even if he was sold. I get like you can have a sense of revenge, but it's like too soon, man. It's like when Ronaldo played against Sporting when he for Manchester United and he scored. He put his hands up. He said sorry, whatever. But you can't do that forever. You're not gonna not celebrate like with Ronaldo. I think it was against Sporting again, where he did score and he did celebrate. That's fine. But I think that's disrespectful on Talisca's part. Um, I don't know what he was feeling, and I don't know if he's going to be gone for that much. I know that that's what the clause is, 25. It doesn't mean that's what it's going to be. Benfica can negotiate that less. So we'll see what happens with that. But um, don't bite the hand that feeds you is what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Anything can go wrong at Besiktas. He can be benched. And he can have a fallout with the coach, with the players. Anything could happen. So now, what if one day, or at the end of the season, it doesn't work out with Besiktas and he doesn't want to be there? What if he's unhappy with just living in Turkey? That happens too. So I know that there's a lot of players that when they go to different leagues, they
Mm-hmm.
go for the money, but then at the end of the day, they're not happy with where they're living. So um, it's you got to be careful with things like that, especially when you're on loan. It doesn't mean that you're going to get purchased. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that. It could be
No,
that
yeah.
Besiktas doesn't want to pay the 25. Then what? If I was Luis Vieira and Besiktas wanted to negotiate, I wouldn't do it. I would stand firm on the clause for only on the sole purpose of the way that Talisca is acting. And then
Yeah.
if they pay the clause, they pay the clause. If not, then he comes back. He either
So
goes to
what
the
can
B
you do?
squad
You're
or just
right.
sits on the
Yeah.
bench and rots like what Carrillo did at Sporting, which is something completely different. But like it happened with Rolando too. He wanted to force his way out, and he ended up not playing, and I don't even know where the hell he is anymore. So um, I
He's
just
at
think it's
Marseille, by the way.
Yeah, but
is that
yeah, he is a
Marseille?
Mercy. But his
Okay, I didn't
career
even know
kind of
that.
went down, yeah.
Yeah,
He
and
doesn't start though.
Benfica get the best out of get the best out of the deal, like you said. If they don't pay the 25 million, who the hell cares? At least you're gone. Put you on the
Yeah,
B team, just put training you on the side like they're doing with Ruben Amorim, and And Jose Amorim deserves a lot more respect than that dickhead Talisca for what he did, man. I don't. It
Exactly.
doesn't fall well to me when someone just celebrates against their parent club. It's just. Well, like 2 years ago when Tezal was it Tozé, there you go. When Tozé scored against Porto, he didn't celebrate. Man, he clearly held his hands up and said, "I'm sorry." And the same happened with João last year against Porto. Listen,
Yeah, he cried when he scored.
He cried, yeah.
But you
exactly.
know what? I'm not going to take offense to that because like he said sorry and he cried and Tozad was sorry and a lot of the fans, Porto fans, were upset at them. But you got to remember, like now the players who are loaned can't play against the parent club unless it's Taça de Portugal. But you got to remember, these guys are professionals. They're there to play for a club. You loan them. They're there to show their worth to you. So if they score against you, that says a lot.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I mean, yeah. The only issue that I would have with it is if they celebrated, and of course, personally, I would have liked if Benfica would have put a clause, seeing that they were loaning out a player to a player of a team that plays Champions League football, that he could not play against us in the Champions League. But it is what it is. The worst thing is that he celebrated, and the worst wasn't even that he celebrated. It's the fact that we drew on the 93rd minute. And that is also what really got to me.
Well,
Would have
it's like
scored earlier, I wouldn't be mad. Yeah, Brian.
no, I was gonna say it's like Kevin said. They are professionals, so I'm not mad at Talisha scoring because of course he had to try. It sucks, obviously, and it pisses me off. But it's natural because that's his job. That's what he's getting paid to do. But it's celebrating in that manner as if, as if we treated him like shit. I mean,
Yeah, like screw
Yeah.
you.
it
Yeah.
wasn't that big of a deal that we learned him out. I mean, he just couldn't fit into our squad. He wasn't part of Rui Vitoria's plans. So he should have more respect because, like I said, and like you guys said, if it doesn't work out in Turkey and they don't want to buy him, and guess what? He has to come back to us. And if we want to play him in the B team, then he's going to play on the B team and he has no choice. So he needs to be a bit smarter in what he's saying and what he's doing as well.
Yeah, and I think that we've nailed it on the head really. Talisca has everything to lose. Benfica, yeah, we lose 4 million, but I mean we've lost so much money before that 4 million
Yeah.
isn't gonna bother us. To end out the podcast, I just want to get a little bit of fire here going. Kevin, this was for you. Alex asked you, how does it feel knowing that Porto are shit? Can't even sign Braga's best center back, but call yourselves a big club.
Not more shit than this club. He needs to recognize that the best Portuguese team in the past 30 years is Porto. And for him to see the last time that his team won a league title, he's got to tune into the History Channel because that shit's ancient. Since his team has won the league title, we've won a Champions League, we've won 2 UEFA Cups / Europa Leagues, and everything else in between. His chest is all puffed now because he ended up second place last season on a Brian Ruiz miss, and they won the Taça de Portugal against Braga a couple of seasons ago. So now they're, he's pounding on his chest like he's Tarzan, but he needs to have a little bit more respect for one of the best clubs in Portugal. And it's not only Porto who has been one of the best teams in the last 30 years. Benfica has been with Porto within the last 10 years. Them two together, and just them two, because Sporting was left out of the conversation. Those two were the best Portuguese teams in the last 10 years. Porto won a Europa League, and Benfica was in two consecutive finals?
Yeah.
Against Chelsea and against Sevilla. Unfortunately, you guys didn't win, but at least you made it that far. The only thing they have to say is that they made it to UEFA Cup final, and they lost at home to CSKA. After winning 1-0, they ended up blowing it and losing 3-0, and they lost in the second half. So, to answer his question, my team is not more shit than his club.
Can I add? Can I add a little bit? I have to agree.
Definitely.
I have to agree with Kevin. Obviously, I hate Porto just naturally being a Benfica fan, but it's no denying that Porto in the past 30 years have been much more dominant than any other Portuguese club. But second of all, Benfica recently will finally start to get our dominance back with 3 league titles in a row. Obviously, it looks better for the league that 3 teams are competing, but I don't understand when Sporting fans call Benfica or Porto shit when it's like Kevin said, recently it's only been Benfica and Porto. I mean, since Sporting won the league, not even talking about football here, Facebook's been created, Twitter's been created, YouTube. All of these things did not exist when Sporting
MySpace
won
was
the league.
created. MySpace is
Yeah,
gone.
all of these things did not exist when Sporting were champions in 2001, I believe it was, the
Yeah.
last time. So
Yeah.
I don't even think Alex has even seen. I don't know Alex
No,
personally, but
it doesn't even remember that. It's impossible.
yeah,
It's like 2 years old.
exactly. So because they came second and they took our coach, that is now their big, and they beat us 3-0 in our stadium.
Yeah, we have. Oh my God, they beat us 3-0. It's the
But
biggest
what they
thing
fail
ever.
to realize is that they are a small club in terms of mentality. While Benfica and Porto, we strive for success, we strive to win European titles, league titles. Sporting are quite comfortable with beating us and finishing second. I mean, they were so proud of the team, and I understand it to a degree. But when you're 7 points ahead of your rival, and Benfica having one of our worst starts this season in a long time, and then you end up losing the league, you shouldn't be too proud of that. And of course they ended
Yeah.
up blaming the referees. But yeah, at the
And
end of the day,
yeah, it's just Sportingistas, man. Because
yeah,
it's not just him. I had my friend. I went over to my friend's house like 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, and he was like, "We played better the whole league. We were better. We deserved to win. You guys got lucky. Yada yada yada." I'm like, bro, I don't care if we play shit. And even said we beat you 3 out of 4 times, and I'm like, bro, I will sign a contract where it says Benfica loses both games to Porto and Sporting and wins the league every single
oh
year.
yeah,
I'd sign
me
that up.
too.
I don't care. I don't care,
Yeah.
man. So to wrap this up, Kevin, you always give us out the scores, and then we'll ask for final thoughts.
All right. I wanted to add the second league today. If that's all right with you, I can just go through the results and the
Yeah,
standings quick. All right. For the second division, the Ledman Liga Pro, there's one game that wasn't played yet. That's going to be played on October 5th. That's Sporting Covilhão Académica. And the results from this past weekend: Famalicão 3, Friamun 2, Vizela 0, Braga B 0, União da Madeira 3, Olhanense 2, Guimarães B 1, Portimonense 5, Cova da Piedade 1, Santa Clara 1, Gil Vicente and Aves 0-0, Faf and Leixões 0-0, Varzim beat Sporting B 3-0, Porto B2, Penafiel 2, and Benfica B2, Académico de Viseu 1. Real quickly, the standings. Portimonense and Santa Clara tied at first with 16 points. Third place, Vizela, with an extra game played, they have 12. Fourth, fifth, and sixth is Penafiel, Cova da Piedade, Benfica B with 11. Porto B in seventh with 10 points. Then 8th, 9th, 10th. Let me see. Yeah, 8, 9, and 10 is Braga B, Aves, and Faf with 9. Famalicão in 11th place with 8 points, along with União da Madeira. 13, 14, 15, 16 is Gil Vicente, Varzim, Académica, Guimarães B with 7 points. Then 17, 18 is Leixões Académico with 5. Friamun and Sporting B with 19 and 20 place with 4 points. Sporting de Covilhão and Olhanense are the final two teams at the bottom with 1 point each. Covilhão and Olhanense. And for the first division, and let's remember that the league is not over yet, Alex. Oroca 1, Benfica 2, Belenenses 2, Nacional 1, Sporting 3, Moreirense 0, Porto 3, Guimarães 0, Paços Ferreira and Estoril tied 0-0, Marítimo 0, Rio Ave 1, Braga 3, Boa Vista 0, Chaves 0, Setúbal 0, and Feirense 2, Tondela 1. First place, not for much longer. I don't think they'll last even halfway through the season in first. Sporting in first with 12 points. Braga and Benfica tied for second with 10 points. Porto sitting fourth with 9 points, followed by Setúbal in fifth with 8. 6th and 7th, Rio Ave and Belenenses with 7. 8th and 9th is Chaves, Guimarães, and 10th is Feirense. Each three of them have 6 points. 11th place, Boa Vista with 5. Moreirense with 4 points and 12th. 13th and 14th, Oroca and Marítimo with 3. Paços Ferreira in 15th with 2. Tondela and Estoril 16th and 17th place. Estoril 1 point, and surprisingly in 4 games, sitting at the very end of the table, looking like they might be one of the teams getting relegated, Nacional with 0 points.
Yeah. So that's it. I don't know if you guys want to add anything. Is there anything you guys want to say?
I was just gonna say I'm happy to be on my first show, and it was great talking to you guys about all football this week.
Mm-hmm. It's nice having you here. We always like having new people around. I mean, I could have just asked Timo again, but then I just might as well make Timo a permanent, squad member, I guess, on the PT podcast. Yeah, it was a pleasure having you here, Brian. I'm glad that you took the time to talk to us. And Kevin, I don't know if you want to say anything else.
Yep, I have a couple things to add. First of all, I want to shout out, because I've been meaning to do this for a couple of weeks now. Shout out to at Von Dragon, FCP.
Finally! Yes!
I couldn't forget him. He created our logo for the podcast, and his work is amazing. His Twitter is at Von Dragon FCP, and he's the one that created our logo, so a big thank you to him. A big thank you for Timmy coming on last week, along with David filling in for me because I couldn't make it. I want to thank Brian for coming on today. I like his accent. He has like that tropical accent. You can tell he's from Bermuda.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I want to thank Brian for coming on. I would like for him to come on more often because you're great here. So you fit right in with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I also want to thank Kyle, even though he's going to be leaving the podcast. I want to thank him because a lot of people don't know this, but like behind the scenes when we're getting ready to go on the air, Kyle's there to set us up. And even today we were freaking out a little bit because we couldn't get going live, and then Kyle came to the rescue for us. So I want to thank Kyle for what he did helping us with the podcast. And because it is Peter and Kyle behind the scenes. Those two guys do a great job. So hopefully Kyle can stick around and help us if we need help with anything. So I want to thank him for helping us out with everything he did here on the podcast.
Major, shout out to Kyle because he was alongside Alex the ones that had the idea to even make this thing. We were playing FIFA and they got into a party and they were like, "Yo, Peter, so you know the Benfica podcast, obviously," and I was like, "Yeah." And then he said, me and Alex have been thinking about making this podcast. Now, what do you think? You wanna help in? You wanna be part of it? And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, why not? And it's sad to see the guy that ended up having the idea of making the podcast to go. But I mean, got other things going on with his life, and he can't always be around. I mean, obviously during the summer he didn't have any issues, but now that school started for them. It's always going to be a little bit harder, so, he can come in at any time, though he's always welcome. He can do whatever he wants, end up coming on. But obviously we're going to miss him. I mean, right now we don't have any plans to replace him, but I don't know what will happen in the future. I just want to, like you said, thank Kyle for being with us and having the idea of creating.
Yeah, so, we'll always like to have him on whenever he can, whenever he's available. So, good luck with everything that he's going to do. I know he just started school, so good luck with that. Pay attention in school and go to college, kid.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I don't know if, all right. So, once again, thank you, Brian, for coming on. And, I guess so we'll be on next week. I want to point out that I will be, like I've said, doing the Sporting game tomorrow, so if you're gonna miss that blowout, follow us on Twitter at PTFootypodcast. Go ahead and follow Kevin at POR_soccer. Follow Brian at Brian_NN, and obviously me at Peter1678. This is it for this week. We'll be back next week. We'll be discussing Champions League ties, hopefully with Alex here, obviously. We're going to be talking Sporting, we're going to be talking Porto, and obviously Benfica. So, thank you once again, Brian, for coming on. And Kevin, I'll see you next week, obviously.
Yes, Ciao. Good night, everybody.